In this recording, we are going to talk about an equation and how an equation can be represented on a graph. Okay? Now, if you look at this equation, by the way, the word equation comes from the word equal. E-Q-U-A. Equate, equation, equal. So an equation must have an equal sign. And on each side have terms. This is a linear equation, and on the left side you've got the dependent variable, the value, and on the right side you have the independent variable or the solution, all right, which is the x values, which is accompanied by, in this example, you've got a 3 times whatever value, whatever solution you have for your x, plus 2. This is called a linear equation because the maximum exponent is 1. The exponent is the number above the top right corner of each variable. If you don't see an exponent, it is 1. So when an exponent is 1, it is not usually written. So you wouldn't see y raised to the 1 equal 3x raised to the 1. You will just see y equal 3x, y and x, meaning the exponent is 1. So that's why it is linear, because the maximum exponent is 1. So that's a linear equation, and we're going to represent it on this x and y axis. So we're going to make a graph out of this. To do that, we have to identify the x values, the solutions, okay? It's normally called the domain, okay? So we can do -4, -3, as you can see, -4, -3, -2. I was just being cautious not to start too far, because -1, because I want to put some positive x values. So as you can see, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is always the case. The solution or the x values or the domain always increases from left to right consecutively by a certain interval. In this case, the interval is 1. So the x solutions are always, as you can see, I'm trying to really deal with x with solution. And the y values now depends on what happens or what comes out when you input the solutions into the variable or into the place in the equation where x is. So for example, we have to substitute -4 into the x position on the right side, multiply 3 by -4 and add 2 to see what comes out. What comes out will be the value, the y value for -4. As you can see, I replace x with -4. I'm going to multiply 3 times -4 plus 2. Okay? 3 multiplied to -4. And positive, because if you don't see a sign, there's an invisible positive. So a +3 times a -4 will give us a -12. A positive times a negative is a negative. Okay, please take note of that. A positive multiplied to a negative is equal to a negative number. Bear in mind, whenever you're watching a math video, you have your pen and your paper ready to take notes and to pause and replay and etc. So please take note of that. Positive times a negative is a negative. Now we have -4, -12 plus 3, plus 2, sorry. Now, apart from saying negative, when you see this sign, you can see subtract, you can see take out, you can see minus, right? So we want to -12 from 2, all right? Or you owe in 12. You can also say O. When you see a negative sign, you can say O. So if you owe 12 and you have 2, you owe $12 and you have $2. When you go to the shopkeeper and you give the shopkeeper the $2. You will still owe $10. Okay, so negative 12 plus 2 is equal to negative 10. All right. And then you can put negative 10 right here. And we have to do that for all the x solutions right up to positive 4. Okay. So when we put negative 3, we have 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Negative 9 plus 2 is equal to negative 7. Take out 9 from 2, you're going to still owe 7. When we input negative 2, we input negative 2 in the place of x. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. And negative 6 plus 2 will give us negative 4. When we input negative 1, out comes negative 1 also. And you can use your calculations. Please try not to use calculator and prove that your answer is negative 1. When we input 0, we get 2. 3 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 2 is 2. When we input 1, 3 ones are 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. When we input 2, 3 twos are 6. And 6 plus 2, out comes 8. So you have the input and the output. So the y is the output. Okay, the x is the input. Let's input 3. And let's see what comes out. 3 3s are 9. 3 3s are 9. 9 plus 2 will give us 11. So out comes 11. Oh, by the way, the input is called the domain and the output is called the range. Okay, so the y values are called the range. So lastly, let's input 4. 4 3s are 12. 12 plus 2 will give us 14. So now we have what you call a table of ordered pairs. Okay? A table of ordered pairs, meaning you have the x, which is pairing up with the negative 10, negative 4 pairs up with negative 10, negative 3 pairs up with negative 7, all the way to 4 pairs up with 40. So we're going to plot these points on the graph and then represent this on to make a graph out of this. So as you can see here, I have the point. I put the point in the origin. Okay, here it is. So I'm going to try to locate this point based on the first ordered pair. So I have to first look for negative 4 on the x-axis. First, you must first look for your x solution on the horizontal axis, negative 4. And what is the value for such a solution? Negative 4, what is the value? What is the y value? Okay, it's negative 10. Negative 10 is right below. So my scale doesn't permit for me to get negative 10. Okay, so I need to adjust my scale according to this set of ordered pairs. The scale for the y-axis. So here I got an appropriate scale and I actually took the liberty to draw a line, but let me just show you how you can plot your points. The first point you look for negative 4 and the first coordinate, the solution x coordinate is negative 4 and then your solution is negative 10. So you come down to negative 10 and here you are. All right, and we've got to do that right up to 4. Let's go back on the x-axis. Let's look for 4, the solution of 4. And 4 goes up to 14. Okay, so that is 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, and then you do that for all the points. The 0 goes up to 2. You see 0 up to 2, and you join the points and you have your graph. And as you can see now, the y values now are increasing. All right, they are increasing by 3. This 3 is called the gradient. We'll talk about that after. But each time x increases by 1, the y value increases by 3. For example, you have 0, 0 has an output of 2. But let us increase 0 by 1. You get 1. And then what happened to the y value? The y value increased by 3 because 3 plus 2 is 5. The difference between 8 and 5 is 3. The difference between 11 and 8 is 3. 14 and 11 is 3. So each time x increases by 1, the y values are increasing by 3. And this is called the gradient. The gradient is defined as the value that y increases or decreases, because y can increase or decrease, but the x solutions for gradient definition must increase by 1. Always increasing by 1. Okay? And the y either increase or decrease by any number. So in this example, when the x solution increases by 1, the y values are increasing also, but by 3. And this is called the gradient. Okay? So here is how an example of representing an equation on a graph. You have the x solutions and the y values. The y values are increasing by 3. Each time the x solutions are increasing by 1.